Thanks, guys. We're here for another episode of What is Healthy. And today we're going to be talking about colon therapy and colonics. And we've got Tommy here, who is a colon therapist from Alivio Health, or Alivio Wellness, I should say.
Yes. Yep.
You guys are based in the city and in Hoboken, and I've been going for years, so I can't wait to jump in.
Oh, cool.
So tell us more about this. I know that colonics are a very taboo subject and people don't want to talk about poop, and I love talking about poop.
Thank you so much for joining. I actually have never gotten a colonics, so
I get them
I'm
regularly.
very interested in this conversation.
Okay. So what do you want to know?
Yeah, let's kick it off with how you got into this space, a bit about yourself, about what you do, what the day-to-day looks like. We could start with that.
And then we'll talk about the health benefits.
Okay, great. How I got into it probably incorporates some of the health benefits. So when I was 18, I was put on meds for life. I used to get grand mal seizures, which meant I would fall down unconscious and convulse.
Wow.
So I was put on meds at 18. I did that for 11 years and then learned, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this aspect of eating, but food combining. And I got into that, and I just got into it because I thought, oh, this sounds nice. I didn't think it would do anything. But it had such a profound change on how I felt health-wise that I decided that, because I felt I was an expert in pharmacology, that I should reduce the meds until I was completely off of them. And then I got off the meds for the first time, because I tried in the past to get off. And I got off the meds and stayed off for 4 years and was seizure-free.
Oh, wow.
After 4 years
Wow,
of that,
incredible.
After 4 years of that, I read another book, and that book had talked a lot about colon therapy or emptying the bowel. And I was like, all right, let me get a colon therapist. And I found Gil Jacobs, who became my teacher. And, basically, once I started getting colonics, I knew I'm never getting this illness back. It's now 33 years since I've had the illness, since I've taken the meds. And, Gil one day opened his big mouth and said, you should think about doing this, And I was just like, oh, God, no. I would never. This is disgusting. But I did love the work.
That's a normal reaction.
Yeah, right. I was like, God, what are you kidding me? But then I was married at the time, and I said to my wife, do you believe Gil thinks I should be a therapist? And she was like, duh. So I was like, all right, I got to think about this. And a week later, I was going to the school. So I've been doing this since '99.
And that was definitely not a trendy thing in '99.
No. The way we had to operate in the building we were in, it was like we were selling crack. It was the worst. Like, come on in, sneaking people in. But, it became more popular over the years. And we were we were really, really busy back then. From '99 to 2006, we had Shocker 17, which is now kind of legendary. It was like we were busy from morning until late into the night. At one point we had 4 rooms and we were packed. So, that was the lifestyle. We advised in diet because of what worked for us, which was vegan back then. Now it's plant-based. But, we advised on food combining, moving toward, we weren't adhering to you must be vegan. Telling people how they should eat is a mistake. I think it's more like, what did you used to do? How can we take you a step further? And that was more like our approach. And it's still my approach today. Even though we're not certified in any dietary stuff, well, doctors give dietary advice and they have 0 training in that department.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, 100%. Julia and I also talk about every individual is different.
Right,
So putting
individuality.
a blanket diet on every single person just isn't going to work. You have to work with them and make sustainable changes that they actually want to make.
I agree with that. And when you consider the differences, often it's blood related. What enzymes are in the blood? And I don't necessarily believe in the blood type diet, which was popular for a lot of years.
I don't
Yeah, it
either,
was
but I do
popular.
agree with certain things within the blood type diet. Like I've looked at my own blood type and it says like I should avoid beans, and every time I eat beans and legumes, my stomach is just awful.
A mess.
I think, yeah, I think legumes are. I have a three category philosophy about food, and that is like which foods are primary for humans and which are secondary, and then which are not food or non-food. And the primary foods are the ones we could eat raw, which oddly has to include meat because that's how we ate meat. Because if you think about
Yeah.
how we came about, we didn't always cook our food. So having food raw meant fruits, veggies, leafy greens, seeds, some nuts, and that was really it. And then when we switched over to meat, we were eating meat raw, which I'm vegan for 28 years now. So like I don't adhere to that, but some people do and it works for them.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
the secondary category are the foods we have to heat and cook, and legumes fall into that category. But I will argue to the death that they are really not for us unless you soak them for a week and go through the whole
Interesting.
Why?
process.
If you could
Well,
you go
because
into
they're high protein and high starch, and the body doesn't digest protein and starch together in a efficient way, and creates a lot of gas. So if you look at the chemistry of it, protein foods require an acid enzyme. Starch foods require an alkaline enzyme. So when you mix acid and alkaline, they neutralize each other. So what happens there is the food sits in the stomach and rots, and it makes gas as it's decomposing instead of being
Hmm.
taken down by the enzymes, like broken down, and then passing through the body efficiently. When the food rots in the stomach, it just sits there making a ton of gas, which happens with meat and potatoes, spaghetti and meatballs, pizza. But beans just happen to be really good at making a lot of gas.
they
You know,
really are.
yeah. So,
But I think what you were saying about the priority foods and that what we ate raw, I think it speaks a lot to where everyone's gut health is right now, because a lot of people can't handle the raw vegetables that they're eating. They need to cook it, and that's because it's not working optimally. So, like, if you think about the way it used to work, that everybody's able to,
Digest.
they're able to digest this, eat so much diversity, eat everything raw. That's just not the case for so many
yeah,
people right
that's an
now.
astute insight because I tell people all the time it's not the food. I mean, our food quality is compromised severely, but it's not the
Severely.
food that you're eating that's the problem. Oh, I can't eat apples, I don't digest them, or I can't eat salad, I don't. It's the environment we're putting the food in. So as you're saying, a lot of people's gut health is off. What makes the gut health off is accumulation of waste, undigested food, or
Mm.
eating processed foods, or what I call non-food. I just don't think I, to me, the processed stuff is to be avoided. And
Yeah.
I do think the raw food diet is the best we could do if we go that way. If we want to go, it could take some people 10 years to transition into that diet to
Mm.
fix the gut. But that's where colonics come in. If you can cleanse out the old accumulated waste matter, right? The bloodstream cleanses, the tissues cleanse, the cells cleanse. And when you cleanse the body to that level, then the body becomes more vital and more efficient in its process. So everything you give the body, it's going to handle better. And even after doing it for a long time, if you have a little excursion away from the diet, not necessarily away from, if you're vegan, you would want to kind of remain that way. But if you go a little bit heavier with the diet, your body will handle it pretty well because now the tissues and the organs are cleansed. So it
Yes.
works better.
Yeah, it's funny because I was literally just having this conversation with my mom. We all eat very clean, and they just got back from a trip to Bahamas, and she's like, "We're too clean because I was dying at everything I was eating." And I was like, "Yes, that's happening to all of us, but it actually means that our bodies are still not working as well as they should be, because you shouldn't be dying to that level after like eating a little bit of food that you're not used
Right.
to. Like that doesn't mean you're so healthy. That actually means you have more work to do
Yeah,
to be able to digest everything properly.
true. And there's another thing about the diet that a lot of people, especially you look around on Instagram, no offense, I know you guys have a big presence there. But when you look around on Instagram, you got these people talking about health, and no one mentions this
Absolutely.
Nothing.
this one aspect which is really important, which is which foods cause mucus in the body and which foods cleanse mucus from the body, right? And
And what are
Mm.
those foods?
acid foods cause mucus to form in the body to protect the tissue, right? And then alkaline foods don't cause mucus to form and cleanse out the mucus. So alkaline foods, fruits and veggies. Acid foods, pretty much everything else except for the healthy fats, avocado and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're eating a clean diet, your body's not producing a ton of mucus, right? And then you go and you have a vacation and you decide, oh, let's have the lobster tails or the steak or whatever, rich, heavy foods. Then you're gonna like experience discomfort. You're gonna experience something that you don't
Because
normally
your
have.
body is now making more mucus.
Well, yeah, because your body didn't have the mucus to protect from this like really acidic food. And if you're used to a clean, like think about it like this: if you never had a drink in your life and you drank a bottle of wine, you're gonna feel it hardcore. But if you drink wine with dinner every night, you're not gonna really feel it. So these
Yes.
are aspects that, in my opinion, are really important when it comes to the body and colon health and diet and how it works. It's not just, oh, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to go all raw. I'm going to do keto, whatever. There are ramifications to everything we do dietetically. But like when you look at, you know, eating a clean diet, you can transition from a standard American diet to a very clean diet and feel really sick because you're not cleansing the bowel. And
Yeah.
that's where
I see.
the
So,
rub is.
how often should someone be doing a colonic?
Yeah, well, you know, um, so here's what I tell people, because I don't like to do oh, you should do it this much or whatever, you know. What I tell people is we're talking about poop, we're talking about waste, right? There's no value in that, right? So if you're living a healthy life, if you're living a clean life or eating clean, as you put it, right? Then getting colonics regularly is not a problem. And we have clients that come in once a week, every two, every three, once a month, change the season, like all different, you know. So again, one size doesn't fit all. What are your goals? What are you looking to do? But because it's waste and there's no value in it, it's like, and if you're safely taking it out of the body and you're not going out and hammering the booze or doing drugs or eating cheeseburgers and pizza every day, then doing colonics regularly is a very, very healthy practice. And it'll keep you in a really, really good place. You won't need medicine. You won't need doctors. I mean, I'm 28 years without health
Sign
insurance,
me up.
which is pretty crazy. I know it's kind of dopey. I dislocated my shoulder recently, well, a year ago, actually. And I could have used health insurance.
The health insurance.
So, how does like, so I've been to Levio multiple times, love it. Even when like Mike was still around.
Yeah, oh,
And
vitality.
yeah, Vitality. Mike was actually the first pastry chef at my family's vegan restaurant.
Which
So like
one?
back in 2000, Organic Grill.
Oh my God. Oh, right. I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So lots of history there, but can you walk us through how a colonic, I guess, works?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm in the colonic room, actually.
We can see the toilet paper behind you. I love it.
That's the paper towels. I
Good decor.
decided to not have you see the wall with all the butts on it. This is I tease Adriana all the time about it. I'm like, this wallpaper's got to go.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to come in and make content with that wall later this afternoon.
I tell people when I get them on the table, I'm like, turn left and face this godforsaken wall. And everybody else, oh, I like it. I'm like, yeah.
It's
like
cute little butts, Alina.
Yeah,
You'll see.
yeah. So, all right, you
Love
guys
it.
are coming in
Already.
So, okay. The person is on the table, right? The head is furthest away from the water tank. The torso, we begin with the torso facing left. So you're curled up in a fetal position on the left side, and the height of the tank is what drives everything. So there are two tubes connected to one instrument, which is key here, right? In gravity, you have water entering and exiting the body simultaneously. So once we release the clip that holds the water back, water's flowing in and out at the same time. And through a certain kind of manipulation on the tube, pulsating the tube, and occasionally withholding, like squeezing the tube tight so water can't leave, that's how we get the water to go deeper into the colon. And throughout the session, we begin on the left, we turn the client onto their back. There's midsection massage. I work with different points on the back and sometimes the legs, depending if the person is not releasing. We try these different, what I guess has become called pressure points, but I'm not sure they're pressure points. But by manipulating the gut and different points on the body, you get the body to release. So the whole way it works is water's going into the colon, and when the colon senses the presence of something, it's automatically triggered into working and releasing. And so sometimes we begin a colonic and waste is coming out automatically. Sometimes we have to do a little work to get it there. So the pulsating of the tube, which is a Gil Jacobs invention, the pulsating of the tube is something that kind of moves the water in the body and signals the colon and helps loosen up some waste. When we hold the tube and drive water deeper into the colon, we're filling the colon, so to speak, and then that creates a greater response. We get more stuff to leave. So yeah, what we're doing is we're cleansing the large intestines, the bowel or the colon, all the same. We don't get near the small intestines. The small intestines is where the value is. That's where the good stuff is. But by making room in the colon, we get backed up in our lives, right? The colon gets filled with waste. The small intestines operates less efficiently. The duodenum, which is the second stomach, it holds on to waste, and the stomach has undigested food as well. So when we make room in the bowel, now the small intestines can dump what it's been holding on to. The duodenum into the small intestines, the stomach into the duodenum. And as we repeat that process of getting waste out of the body, consistently, whatever one's frequency is, when you do that and you're eating a food of properly combined meals, you're having fresh vegetable juice on an empty stomach, and you're eating salads before you cook food, you're doing things in a way that creates efficiency. So out with the old, in with the new, and the new cleanses out the meal. So we can talk about.
Does it feel uncomfortable for someone getting this?
I'm not gonna lie.
First-hand experience.
It's different for everyone. Some people feel some discomfort. It's often it feels a lot like you're just having a bowel movement. I say to everyone, it's more, when you first do it, it's more weird because you're in a room with a stranger who's sitting with you while you're laying down and pooping. We're used to sitting and pooping.
It's very vulnerable.
Yeah, there's some vulnerability involved. But the thing that I tell people is what's on the other side of all that? On the other side of all that is independence and freedom. Independence and freedom from illness. Look, if I go into a Duane Reade or a CVS, it's to buy water, or paper towels. I haven't bought or used Advil or Tylenol, again, in 32, 33 years. I don't use any medicine. I don't see doctors. I've had 4 doctor visits since 1991.
Amazing.
2 blood tests. One blood test was to get married. The other one was to get a COVID antibody test. then to get stitches in this finger, and then get my shoulder put back in its socket. That required drugs. That I was like, can I get the shoulder set without the drugs? And the doctor was like, oh yeah, sure. It'll be the most excruciating pain you ever felt in your life. So I was like, give me the drugs, you know.
So
How often do you do colonics, Tom?
I'm
for
sorry,
yourself?
I can't answer that question. I do it way too often. You know, people would think I'm
Okay.
completely insane. But here's the thing. I do the colonics regularly, very, very regularly. And every day I wake up, I have at least 2 to 3 bowel movements before I leave the house for work. And then when I come to work, I'll have another one. And then if I give myself a colonic on any given day, I will have a bowel movement before I get on the table, then get waste out of the body on the table. So
wow.
most people have no idea how much waste the human body holds. And if you're eating
Yes.
Yeah.
if you're eating plant-based, there's a lot of cellulose in that, a lot of fiber. So your body, that expands in the body, and you know, and then we're constantly removing some old stuff when you're living on an alkaline or mucus-free diet.
Right.
How much
Well, that was
should
going to
we
be my
pooping
question.
on a daily basis?
Oh, that's a good question. How many meals are you eating? So
3 to 5?
okay, so if let's say you're having 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you should eat breakfast and within a half an hour to an hour have a bowel movement. Lunch, same thing. Dinner, same thing. So
Wow.
3 meals in, 3 craps out. If you're doing that, you're going to live a long life with very little illness, if any. And that's why colonics are kind of coming into play here, because what doesn't work naturally, you want to get out with the colonic. And if your body is working and you're doing colonics, now you're elevating your health and your vitality to a place where
Yeah.
you become unstoppable.
So
That's interesting to me, because I would have thought if somebody has healthy bowel movements that looks like the perfect poop that they all talk about, and you're so good with that, it's interesting that colonics are still beneficial to you, because you would think that you're like releasing everything that needs to be released.
I want to add on to that question. I agree. So when I always went to Gina, the colonic specialist at Alivio. I don't know if Gina's there anymore.
No, she's
but
not.
She was telling me at certain points, depending on the color of poop that comes through the tube, you guys can tell how long it's been in the body and where it's been hiding and for how many years that actually hasn't, or months, years, whatever, that it's been sitting there and not properly been excreted from our bodies. So it's wild. So how much like waste is actually in there for a while.
Stuck.
Yeah. I don't totally agree with everything there. There are a lot of people.
So tell me the things.
There are a lot of people that are like poop whisperers, you know. Oh, this was this and this is that. If it's super dark and you're not eating super dark foods, like you might put chlorella in your juice, that's going to make your poop nearly black, right? Certain supplements can do that. But if you're eating like a regular, let's say a plant-based diet, and then you're releasing like lighter colored things, then that could be that you're having a lot of starch. If you're releasing regular dark matter, that could mean a lot of flesh, a lot of protein, right? But when you see a real black, like the color of my shirt, and it's not even formed, that's old waste that was stuck in the cecum of the colon, which is the very beginning of the colon, where the small intestines dumps in, which is on the lower right-hand side of the body, which really affects a lot from the neck up. So you could see eyesight improve, headaches, ear infection, all kinds of things. Doesn't do anything for hair growth. But
that's the only thing.
I haven't fixed that yet. But yeah, it's there's a certain amount of information in that. What I tell people, a lot of people are like, is it old? Is it old? I'm always like, who cares? Old, new. If it's new, it's not.
Just get it out.
Yeah, if it's new, it's not going to be old. It's not going to get old in the body. And what I always say, if it's coming out, it's good. the perfect bowel movement, as Alina said, the perfect bowel movement is when poop is coming out of the body, period. Like, yes, it could be, there could be more, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it should float. It should look like this. No. If you look at a meat eater's bowel movement compared to a plant eater's bowel movement, they're going to be completely different. No matter how formed the plant eater's bowel movement is, what's going to happen after a few minutes, water's going to hit it and it's just going to break apart. So to me, the perfect bowel movement is a lot of poop. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if it floats. I don't care if it sings. It
It's just
should
out.
just leave the body. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's so
It's
interesting.
so interesting.
What are some other common like myths maybe that like
Yeah, like what are the
are
common
needed
things
to be debunked?
Yeah. This is when I do put my online presence together, this is going to be my focus. Myth busting. Colonics ruin your gut flora or get rid of the good bacteria. It's utter nonsense. I dabbled in a probiotic that I
You know what? I think probiotics make me bloated.
You know, they're not. A probiotic would have to be really specifically made for you, so that it's customized to what you need or don't need. Just putting probiotics in the body, especially if the body still has a bunch of waste in it, could be really problematic. So I would say that here's the problem. When we have a colonic, we lose all kinds of bacteria. But getting rid of the acid waste, right, gets rid of all that kind of bacteria. So even if we're low in good bacteria for a while, we will replenish it by drinking vegetable juice, by eating salads and fruits, and eating a properly combined diet. So what we do is we actually give the body a chance to replenish, to rejuvenate, and then create a balance in gut flora. So that's one myth. The other myth is you become dependent on colonics to go to the bathroom, which I just disproved by saying I literally have between 4 and 6 bowel movements a day. So the thing about that is
I'm jealous.
I am too. If my mom was here, she would die.
So here's the thing. If you do the machine colonics, right, like where pressure is being used to get the water in the body, and then hydraulic pressure is pulling the waste out of the body, it overrides the function of the colon. And then you weaken the colon over time. But with the gravity method and the simultaneous in-out flow of water, what we do is, and people might have said this to you when you're getting your colonics, what will happen is you'll trigger the colon to do the work for itself. So in a way, we're causing the body to exercise. The organ is actually getting exercise and strengthening its power. Now, you have to know, I was acutely constipated before I got into this work, which I think was one of the contributing factors to getting seizures. I was so, I went once every 3 to 5 days, and it would take a long time to get a substantial amount of waste out of the body. And sometimes it was just so little, and then got into this. And over time, I started to, really get the bowels to work. But it took me even from 95 until about 2002, maybe 2003, to really have working bowels. And I became a therapist in 99. So I was just like, I'm a colon therapist.
Oh, wow.
And I don't have like working bowels. This is not good. But I was like, oh, at least I have colonics, But then it kicked in.
It all regulated itself.
Yeah. But those are two really, really common myths, about colonics. But there's, I'm sure there are others that I'm not thinking about. But just consider this. There's an old saying. I got this one from Gil. Take care of the organs below the belly button, and the organs above will take care of themselves.
I love that.
That
Very
is how
good.
now I healed a central nervous system disorder through my
Yeah.
ass. Like this
And
is
your
my
gut.
Yeah.
colonics. I also had chronic and acute allergies, like really bad, seasonal, really bad, uh, animal related. Like if I walked into someone's house
With a
and they had a
cat.
dog or a cat, I would get like really bad allergy
Mhm.
attacks. So during COVID, I was an idiot and I fed outdoor cats and inherited three like tiny little kittens. And I still have them, and I live with three cats, which
Wow.
don't take cats in. It's a crazy move, but anyway.
You're talking to two
You
people who
hate
won't.
cats.
Well, I don't hate
I
them.
do.
I respect them. I just
Oh,
don't
you respect them?
want to live with
Yeah.
them. Yeah,
No,
I love their personalities.
they
No, I'm
they
good.
they ruin all things good.
Yeah.
They're terrible. No. I have good cats, but what a mistake that was. But I live with these animals allergy free. Like I never get allergies anymore.
That's amazing
Oh,
because
I
I
need
have
to tell
very
my
terrible
mom.
seasonal allergies and food related allergies and all sorts of things. And that is,
Oh my God, I can't wait to get a
So
oh, I
colonic.
yeah.
know.
So
Um,
here's the thing.
what, yeah.
Dairy's a big trigger for allergies, for seasonal and those types of allergies. Gluten allergies. Could we touch on that?
Please, I have a
Yeah.
gluten allergy.
I'm gonna say you don't.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to say it's not a
It's
thing.
well, I don't think. I think what we call it and what it is are two different things. We say you have a gluten allergy, but what you have is a problem with glyphosate, which is Roundup, the Monsanto product. That stuff is in
Mhm.
our grain, our corn, our
Mhm.
soybeans. We've
It's in
allowed
everything.
we've allowed
We talk
yeah
about it.
we've
Yeah,
allowed Monsanto
it's
to
not a good thing.
ruin our food. This country. And here's another thing: if you go
And
to
our
Italy,
food is so toxic now that we're not even absorbing the proper nutrients from them.
well, the soil due
Yeah.
to Roundup, the roots aren't able to go far down enough to get the micronutrients. Mike Perrine is really knowledgeable on all this stuff. He's great to
Yes.
talk to
We're going to
about
have him
this.
on the pod too.
Yeah, another Staten
But I
Islander.
think what
Yeah.
This is funny. Me, him, and
we love
Gil
Staten
and
Islanders.
Cindy Suarez. All
Oh,
four of us
really?
colon therapists all lived in
All from
Staten
Staten
Island.
Island.
That's so funny. But Tom, what you were going to say, I believe, is you could eat pasta dishes and gluten in Italy and other countries and not have the same reaction
Exactly.
that you do here. So it's not an allergy or intolerance to the food, it's the way that it's processed and
Yeah.
created.
You know, I've traveled. Last year I did some travel, right? And it's funny. I was in Hawaii and we got there late at night and no restaurants were open and there was a Target. I'm like, there's produce in Target. Same exact produce as what we have in America, right? Well, that is America, but in the mainland. Then I got local fruit and I was blown away by how delicious it was. And I was in Peru also. I was there my second time in Peru. And you walk around these markets and it's just, I mean, Americans would be like horrified by what the food looks like. It's ugly. It's like bruised and you don't even know what half of the stuff is.
Yeah.
But then you eat the food and it is, I mean, their mangoes and their papaya, it's a whole
Mm.
other experience. So I'm
What are your thoughts on like seed oils that have effect on your poop and your digestive system?
Non-foods.
seed oils are most of them are problematic. It's funny. I have to use sweet green. I'm a musician, so often I'm running to a rehearsal and I got to grab salads. My nickname became Tommy Two Salads because I was like two salads for every rehearsal. That
But I
happened.
heard Sweet Green recently removed seed oils from their dressings.
They did. So
Yeah.
when I first went, they didn't use seed oil. Then they did. And every time I would eat a salad, I would like literally be constipated. I'm like, what's
Yeah.
going on? And then I stopped eating it. I started ordering the salad with the olive oil and the lemon and all that, because the dressings are kind of crummy, but some of them taste good, So every now and then I let myself have a little, a leniency in things.
We all
But
do.
Gotta live a little.
when they stopped using the seed oils, I went back to the regular dressing. That spicy cashew is delicious.
And
So
was it constant? Did it make you constipated?
no, absolutely not. So seed oils are problematic and probably more for the processing. The worst oil is canola oil. Now, here's a
Yeah.
funny thing about canola, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but most people think a canola is a thing.
No, it's not even a thing. It's not a vegetable. It's not a thing.
It's rape seed oil, not
Yeah.
grape, rape, RAPE, rapeseed oil, and which is highly toxic to the body. So it's problematic that food. And then the processing. Oh, we process it so it's healthy. It's like you're going to take a seed and take the essence of that seed and make it healthy. I'm good.
Well,
I'll
it's
have
like
olive
how I
oil.
feel about 17 grain bread or enriched bread. Like they're pulling it apart and then adding more crap to it so that it can be shelf stable.
Well, here's something. Bread is one of the original non-foods. We
How
made it
so?
because we made it.
Yes.
Like I look at food like whatever occurs naturally can be considered food, right? That's food. If we take a
Yeah.
little bit of this, a handful of that, some water, some this, and call it bread, or make cheese isn't food, bread isn't food, pizza isn't food.
What
I
about
grew up on
fermented
pizza.
foods?
Fermented
What
foods
about like,
they're
but
great.
is that a food or is that like a manipulated food?
Well, yeah, think about this. Like, if you look at dairy, yogurt would be the closest thing to a natural food outside of milk. And I believe each species should have their own milk. Humans having any animal milk or soy milk or it's all garbage. It's all nonsense. Um, but we definitely shouldn't take cow's milk ever. It's a big lie. Um, but yeah, I think what we do is we make foods and we try to act like, oh, it's got all these nutrients and stuff. And, cheese is rubberized milk. Yeah, that's why I brought up yogurt. If you look at sauerkraut or pickles or kimchi and
Love
things
it.
like that, if you take a food and just let it sit naturally, it'll go through a process. So you add a little salt water or whatever the process is, and you actually get something beneficial from it. Why not use it?
Yeah.
Like use food is what's that thing? Use food as thy medicine or some
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the way that they would have done thousands of years ago to be able to keep that food from rotting and to be able to
Right.
eat it,
Exactly.
as time goes
Right.
on, um, to have the supplies there.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's just natural food. And I love your whole take on that because I think, yes, it's very daunting. Joya and I always talk about this, like what's healthy, what's not healthy. There are so many different complexities and nuances right now because of like all of the man-made non-foods and everything that's been introduced. But if you want to look at it from a simplistic way, it's what you said in the beginning of like, what are real foods? What are foods that we were meant to be eating all along that were available before? If you just stick to that, like that's half the battle.
Right. You know, if you look at food from that perspective, what's natural, what's not, it's a good thing, right? And like, look, grain isn't natural, but occasionally you're going to have rice or you're going to have whatever. Millet is a pretty healthy grain. Millet, quinoa, I'm not nuts about. Everyone went crazy for that. But the basic ancient grains are
There's
pretty
another one,
decent.
the African Ethiopian grain.
Amaranth,
Yes, amaranth.
yeah, those are the ancient grains, and they're all okay. But again, you can't eat them raw. You can soak them
Yeah.
or you can cook them. So that makes them a secondary food in my philosophy, right? But there's another thing I think about eating that should be addressed, right? Oh, what's healthy? What's not healthy? Oh my God, what am I doing? Am I hurting myself? And people get really, really crazy about this stuff. And what I say is like, whatever you're eating, enjoy. Like really enjoy eating that
Mm,
food, even if it's pizza, because this does more damage to our health than
yes.
most things. And if oh, I can't believe I'm
Preaching to
eating
the
this.
Very,
choir.
very well said.
Yeah, so it's good to like in the process of becoming healthier, in the process of getting towards a cleansing diet, just love it all, enjoy it all. because the truth is that the more at peace I am when I'm eating a meal, the more easily it's going to go through the body. But if I'm like, I can't believe
Yeah.
I'm eating this crap, you know.
That it's just gonna sit there.
Well,
And
you're
like,
building up, it's going to sit, you're building up cortisol, you're
Right.
building up stress. It's not allowing you, when we're in fight or flight, or digestion shuts down. So, like, all of that is interconnected. And the reason I love having conversations with people like yourself and practices like what you guys do is you'll never have this conversation with the doctor. You'll come in and they'll give you
medicine,
some sort of medication, a
stool
pill,
softener.
and you're, yeah, and you're off on your way. And there's no conversation of like, well, maybe you should look at your nutrition. Maybe you should look at changing some of these
How you're
core
combining your
practices in
food.
your life. Yeah, like the holistic practice. I love that that's like at the core of what you're a colonics
Right.
center, but or more than a colonics center, you're doing colonics, but you're speaking to people about these foundational things, which is so important.
Speaking of like foundational ideas, like when Mike opened this place, which became Alivio, it was called Vitality, right? So there's this guy that I live according to, and I'm recently back on a raw food diet. I did it for nearly 20 years, like mostly raw foods. But right now I'm about 15 weeks in to just having raw food, right? Because I find that that's what works for me. In and out easily. I feel clear, everything's working better. Even my eyesight has gotten better. And one other thing, from cooked food to raw food, with the shoulder injury I had, the pain in the shoulder, I couldn't really do push-ups. Overnight, the difference was I was able to do double the amount of push-ups when I went raw. But the reason I
Wow.
bring up Vitality is Arnold Ehret wrote this book called The Mucusless Diet Healing System. And that book, to me, is the Bible. It was published in
Mm,
1922. I don't believe anyone has come close
wow.
to this information, this knowledge. The problem with the book is it's very radical, right? He wrote two really, really heavy duty books, Rational Fasting, and he does not support really, really long fasts, 40, 50, 60 days. I heard people doing juice feasts, living that way for like 3 to 6 months. It's insanity. There's way
Insanity.
too much risk involved with that, because the longer you go without food, the more you loosen up things that your body might not be able to handle. But Arnold Ehret, Professor Arnold Ehret, had a formula for life that he referred to, and it was V equals P minus O. Vitality equals power or pressure minus obstruction. So your vitality is equal to the body's power and ability to move air and move blood and just function at a high level, right? Minus obstruction. But the more obstruction, colon obstruction, or just congestion in the body, the less the vitality and the power of the body can thrive. So the vitality of a person is basically um, its ratio is between that and how much crap is in the body and in the tissue. So as we cleanse out this stuff, the vitality improves. If you have breathing issues, or heart issues, all this stuff will correct itself, as in the take care of the organs below the belly button uh, saying, all this stuff really, really comes down to obstruction in the colon, which is why I am vehemently against the keto and the high protein diets. Because most of these people won't tell you, eventually they're crapping pellets. They're not
Interesting.
having
Because
normal,
they're not
healthy
getting enough
bowel movements.
fiber.
Well, they're not getting enough water-containing foods. If you watch carnivores eat animals, the place they really focus on mainly is the gut. And they take all the organs. That's where the water is.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the blood is. They eat that part of the
Mm.
body, and they leave the flesh for last, and for maybe some other animals. But it's not a thing, this high protein. And one last thing about the high protein.
Of course.
If you're 20 years old or 22 years old and you're eating the high protein diet and you look amazing, it's like, yeah, I used to eat bagels, pizza, cheese omelets.
It looked
I ate the
amazing.
most
It's funny.
garbage foods in the world, and I looked fine, you know? So,
I mean, I think it's interesting what you said about organs. Joy and I do both eat meat. I don't do dairy, but there's a brand called Force of Nature and some other brands that are doing regenerative
mm,
meats, but they're also bringing in organ meats into their
mm,
mixture, which I think is an interesting take on if you are going to eat meat. I mean, we always say if you're going to eat meat, make sure it's high quality. Anything that's commercial raised, that's really
Yeah,
just
grass
like
fed, grass
not doing
finished.
you any benefits. Yeah, so get really high quality if you can, include the organs and everything that, like you said, other animals, carnivores would be eating. They're not just eating the, you know, bits that we're eating, they're eating all of it.
yes.
I have a question, and this might be a little far of a question, but we'll go with it. Have you noticed there's been a lot of like chat or like posts I've been noticing that there are a lot of people, millennials and Gen X, that are getting more and more colon cancers and rectal cancers and like
Mm.
prostate cancers, but especially like colon. And they're actually doing a direct correlation between the quality of chicken that people have been eating for years and that it could be leading to these like direct gut issues. And like, can colonics kind of
Help.
reverse or help?
Yeah, the quality of chicken, the quality of beef, all U.S. meats are raised in a cruel and horrible way. So they're releasing
Disgusting.
all kinds of adrenaline. They're aware they're going to get killed. It's a heartless process. And I didn't become vegan for
Yeah.
animals. I became vegan for selfish reasons. I wanted to be healthy. I didn't, it wasn't like, oh, save the animals. It wasn't about that. I'm glad now that I do. My standard line, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? Not killing a turkey, you know? but but can colonics fix that or reverse it if the diet changes? And listen, cancer is one of the, and this could get me in trouble, but cancer is one of the easiest illnesses to fix. It's a lifestyle illness. I mean, if you're born with it, it's a very different discussion. But if you're in your 20s, 30s, 50s, whatever, and as you get older, you get an illness, cancer is of the easiest ones to fix. You remove all the acid foods, you pour a ton of green juice in the body. We could talk about why that matters. But like colonics without the diet component isn't going to be a fixer. But colonics with a diet, like with the proper alkaline or alkalinizing diet, will have dramatic effects on cancer. One very quick thing to understand why green leafy vegetables are important in the form of juice. Why they're so important? Because we don't have to do any work to get the liquid, right? We don't have to separate the pulp. So it's automatically very easy for the body to take in and utilize. Chlorophyll, which makes the vegetables green, and hemoglobin are identical molecularly. Okay? So when we
Oh,
take in chlorophyll, it just makes hemoglobin. Hemoglobin carries the oxygen. It's the main
Yeah.
oxygen carrier. So the more green vegetable juice and green vegetables that we eat, the more oxygen rich our blood can become because we're building the blood, we're building the hemoglobin, right? Hema being like related to the blood, iron, right? So, but hemoglobin carries the oxygen and I believe the carbon dioxide out. So it's really important, right? Now, cigarette smokers, carbon monoxide and hemoglobin bond and they do not separate until you've gotten away from cigarettes 100%. So when the body is taking in the cigarettes and carbon monoxide and hemoglobin are bonded, then the body can't carry the oxygen, and that's why cancer strikes. Cancer is an opportunistic disease. So when you get rid of
Yeah.
all the things taking away the oxygen and then make the oxygen rich, make the blood oxygen rich, you make an environment where cancer cannot thrive. Okay. So here's the
because in
Hmm.
other
an
thing.
alkaline state, your body can't.
Well, I mean, yeah, you'll certainly bring your body back toward health. Arnold Ehret says the only two things the blood needs is green leafy vegetables for chlorophyll to build the blood, and fruits for fruit sugar to cleanse the blood. And I throw in
Interesting.
avocados because, especially this day and
Because
age,
they're
they're
delicious.
delicious, and we need the fat. And this whole high cholesterol thing is complete nonsense. The
Yeah.
brain is mostly cholesterol. You look at people who got Alzheimer's, and this is more prevalent now in society than ever before. Like there were no
Yes.
food allergies when I was a kid. No one had peanut allergies. No one had gluten allergies. But now
No.
Alzheimer's and dementia are huge, right? Everyone that you know that starts to lose their marbles, so to speak, and they're diagnosed with one of those diseases are most likely on a statin, a cholesterol lowering medication. It's absolute nonsense. Cholesterol is not the problem. High triglycerides are the problem. Fats in the blood.
And that's from bad
Well,
seed oils and bad quality of fat.
Yeah, or
they're
heated fat.
saying that
heated oil.
dementia, yeah, they're saying dementia is like type 3 diabetes pretty much at this point, and it's a lifestyle switch that you need to make to not go down that path.
Yep.
Essentially.
Most of the people I know that got dementia or Alzheimer's, had some kind of cholesterol issue that was being treated by doctors. I met a doctor years ago. We were up in these cabins playing music, so we saw the guy the next day. We were like, "Hey, sorry if we made noise last night." He goes, "No, it's fine." He goes, "I'm up here studying for the boards, the medical boards, so I do need after 10 o'clock. I needed to be quiet, And he went to the country for quiet, and we're playing music. But anyway, I said, "Oh, you're studying for the boards." I'm like, "Can I ask you what you study?" And he said, "I have to study the 500 to 600 drugs and their effects on the human body. That's one of the boards." He says, "We do anatomy and physiology, but that's one of them." I said, "How much nutrition do you study?" He said, "Almost none." And then I happen to have the Mucus Diet Healing System, the Arnold Ehret book with me. I'm like, "Would you take a look at this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'd like to." So the next day I saw him, he was like, "Very interesting book." He's like, "I don't agree with everything," he said, "but there's a lot of really great information in that book."
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that book to people who want to just know it's radical. It's a radical view, but you can take the radical view and then apply it to your life in pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of the functional health doctors who started in the actual medical field, because you see the complete contrast of what, like you said, they were learning before and what they're forced to learn, and like the lack of education in this kind of sense, and where they are now.
With like Mark Hyman, Dr. Frank Lipton, like all of them were MDs that went into like more of the functional medicine side.
Also, Dr. Norman, that's the Woods gravity method came from Dr. Norman Walker and Dr. Robert Woods. And so I was just mentioning he was one of those natural doctors.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I have two last questions, Joel. I don't know about you. I'm just mindful of time.
Yeah, go for it.
My first one is from like a selfish perspective. I talk a lot about anxiety on the pod because I used to deal with like really debilitating anxiety, specifically around health issues. Is there a correlation between getting colonics, like getting all of that waste out of your body, obviously like impacting your brain as well, and you see kind of less anxiety in a person from that?
I think anxiety becomes a loop in the brain.
Yeah.
But the nervous system undoubtedly relaxes as we cleanse the body. I think there are other things that help with anxiety, and because anxiety is future projection, depression is focusing on the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is a whole other topic, but plant medicines are quite useful in addressing anxiety and fears. And I mean, I wasn't an anxious person, but I would find myself like often like taking these breaths and being like, wow, like I didn't have anxiety, or I didn't label it as such, but I would take these deep breaths, and then which are good to do, but like there was something in the exhale that was like, there's worry in that exhale. And I found that plant medicines are like phenomenal for that. Like to live without fear. Like I used to fear death a lot, and that's gone. That's a whole other discussion.
When you mean
Yeah,
plant medicine, you
that's
mean
I mean,
ayahuasca?
mushrooms, weed,
ayahuasca.
ayahuasca. Okay.
Mushrooms are not a plant. Mushrooms are a fungus. But
All right.
mushrooms work for some people. I find mushrooms to be more like entertainment. I know some people do ceremonies, but ayahuasca should be done in a ceremony. And man, is that a powerful tool. I'm going to Peru again in
Mm,
October.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, that's going to be
there you
another.
go.
We'll have you on after that to talk about that.
I'll have to wear like a robe and beads and stuff. Like
Amazing.
Love it. Love it.
What was the other
So
question?
my last question is, if someone isn't in New York going to Alivio Wellness, what should they look for in terms of practice that has colonics to make sure that it's like a good place to go to?
Okay.
Hydro, right? Like the water version, not the one that pumps.
Yeah, with a gravity.
Gravity,
version,
like
you
a
mean.
gravity
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. So gravity is 100%, in my opinion, the only method to use. Make sure the practitioners are experienced, and it's hard. Not everyone is good at this work. Not every, and I'm not
But
saying
everyone at Alivio is.
everyone at Olivio is perfect. Um, no, but experience is what matters. Um, and this is hard to ascertain when you're talking to the person on the phone, but like what makes a good colon therapist is when the person's jammed up and it's not working, getting them through that. If you can get them from that not so good situation to the end of the treatment and feel, oh yeah, we got through it, that's where a good colon therapist comes in. So ask if they give midsection massage, ask if they work with the tubes, because a lot of people just plug you in, release the water, and have a conversation, and that's not how it works.
Mm,
So it's also so the Wood Hygienic Institute is where most of us or all of us got our certification. If they're wood trained, then they might be more reliable. Stay away from machines of all kinds. And then there's one where they put you in a room and you kind of sit in a basin, and an instrument goes in your body, and then you poop into the basin.
That
Very
doesn't sound nice.
not
very
it.
unpleasant.
Okay. What about colonics at home? Yay or nay?
People are
It's not
not,
enough water.
well, they're not trained to do it, and they don't know what they're doing. Some of it's recommended to stand up while you're doing it, like you're using the pressure
Sounds
of the
messy.
faucet. It can be messy. I don't like those machines. I was dating someone years ago, and she used it and didn't use it right, and she was messed up for like literally like 2.5 months, and I'd have to get her
Wow.
in, weekly, put her on the table and fix her. You know, those home systems, I'm not a huge fan
That's
of.
a whole other level of intimacy when you're dating
Yeah,
someone.
and
I'm
giving them
having one conversation.
colonics.
I'm having one conversation with you, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if Tom could do my
I
colonics, and I
know, same.
It's funny. It's like if I'm dating someone, it's like get on the table. It's a requirement.
Is that like date 2?
No, day 3, day 4. No, I'm kidding. But no, it's if if you're into this lifestyle long enough, like I'm not going to be dating someone who lives on a keto diet. No offense, no judgment. Well, maybe some judgment. The thing is, can I say one thing about the high protein diet, the
Of
carnivore?
course.
Yeah.
So we are not in any way carnivorous animals. There's nothing about us. And people on Instagram, they tell you how we are meat eaters. No meat eater has the lateral movement of the jaw. All completely vertical. The alligator, the tiger, the lion, right? Those animals only have vertical movement. All vegetarian animals have vertical and lateral, right? That's number one. The size of our liver is the same size as an ape or a gorilla. The lion and the tiger, the liver is 4 times the size, right? Our intestines are long, like every other vegetarian or vegan animal on the planet. The carnivore's intestines are short, right? The meat comes in, gets sprayed with hydrochloric acid, and then it's out. The sleeping habits of the vegetarian animals versus the meat eaters. The meat eaters sleep 16 to 20 hours a day and then hunt, eat, and go back to sleep. They're big sleepers. The vegetarian animals, the gorilla, 6 to 8 hours. That's it, right? So nothing about us is really designed to eat meat. If we were carnivores, we would be much faster. We would be able to run and catch animals. We'd have claws. We'd have fangs. We'd have powerful necks. We'd be very, very different creatures. Now, we adapt. We can eat diverse diets. We're more than, we're not carnivore. Maybe we're not purely herbivore anymore, but we are designed herbivore. But maybe we're adaptivores. Like, we adapt to what we're given, but with combinations, with juice, using some of the modern tools.
Create a Netflix special with that name, Adaptivores.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know if I read Diversivore and then came up with Adaptivore, or read Adaptivore and came up with I think I read Diversivore and then I came up with Adaptivore. I like to play with words, but yeah. So
I love
that's how
that.
I see it.
Well, if you guys are in New York City or in Hoboken, please go to Alivio Wellness.
I will be going,
And yes,
for sure.
we will be going. I have gone for years. It's the best. Tom, thank you so much for being on today.
My pleasure.
We're going to abuse you and make you do some funny content in a little bit, but thank you. Honestly, this was the most educational podcast about poop and colonics that I've ever had and listened to, so thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
And who doesn't want to talk about poop?
I know, we could talk about poop all day.
We all
do it.
Exactly. Why is there so much shame about pooping?
I'll tell you why.
It's funny when you're young, and then it's shame when you're older.
Here's why there's so much shame around it. It stinks. Stench.
That's
and it's
true.
funny, in
the
Arnold Ehret book, he says stench is disease. So the body tells us, yeah, right?
So our poop should not be smelling.
So it shouldn't smell?
It should be, detectable maybe. I'm telling you, that when I'm on my cleanest of diets, I go walk out of the room, you walk in the room, you don't smell it. But eggs, forget about it. But yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
Maybe
Thank you so
we could
much.
probably have done 3 hours with you, but
okay.
we need to
Great, ladies.
let you go on with your day. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Take care.